People like to think that they have free will and that somehow coming to God limits that freedom or limits the amount of options that they have to exercise that will. But I want to show you something. Indeed, we all once lived this way. We followed the passions of our old nature and obeyed the wishes of our old nature and our own thoughts. In our natural condition, we were headed for God's wrath just like everyone else. But God, so rich in mercy, and loves us with such intense love that even when we were dead because of our acts of disobedience, He brought us to life along with the Messiah. It is by grace that you have been delivered. So here's what's interesting about this verse. It says, we followed the passions of our old nature. We obeyed the desires of our old nature and our own thoughts. So let's talk about what is the old nature. Well, the old nature is the version of ourself, this flesh, this physical form that grew up in a material world and became subordinated to the material reality that we live in. When your body is hungry, you eat. When you desire pleasure, you engage whatever material things bring you pleasure without any type of regard for whether it's good or right or righteous, but rather just whether it feels good, driven by the pleasures of this form. See, he uses this verbiage intentionally. We followed and obeyed. We followed the passions, we obeyed the desires of both our old nature and our own thoughts. You see, without Jesus, we all follow some form of programming. Every single human being is either going to follow just the pure programming of their biological nature and be like unreasoning animals, just engaging with whatever pleases them in the moment, pulled and drawn by whatever circumstance befalls them. Then there are those who move beyond that and they submit themselves to frameworks that say this is the way in which one ought to live. But they are all frameworks. Every single one of these things that a person submits themselves to is a framework. And so while a person might be able to elevate themselves beyond just a purely animalistic nature, the purely reactive nature to life, what they become subordinate to, what they become obedient to, is a dead framework, because these frameworks are not alive. These frameworks are fixed, and the fact that they are fixed means that they are dead. But this verse says, God brought us back to life in union with the Messiah. You see, the thing that makes us alive, the thing that makes us free, is that we are led by the Holy Spirit who is alive. We're not led by dead frameworks that have been assembled by people of the past who observed what is the best way to live, what is the best way to acquire wealth, what is the best way to do anything in this life that is passing away. Because anything that pertains to this life, anything that pertains to this material realm is dead, because this material realm is passing away. This reality is passing away. So any framework born of this reality is literally dead. And if we live under any framework associated to this reality, we are living under a framework of death. But in connection with the Messiah, we have the Holy Spirit who is alive. And when we obey the Holy Spirit, we are being led by life, not by death. We are orienting ourselves to something that is living, not something that is dead and passing away. That's why nobody on this planet that is not connected to the Messiah actually has free will. They have the ability to move around within whatever programming they have ultimately ascribed to, or they've ultimately become subjected to, more or less. So whether it be the base programming of just your biology, and that's all it is, or whether you're a person who was born with a greater intellect, and so you were able to subordinate yourself to a higher framework of thinking. In either respect, your whole life is led by something that is dead and passing away. You're not free, because death is a prison that we all share in these bodies. So unless you're connected to something alive, you're either a slave to the passions of your flesh, or you're a slave to the frameworks of your own mind, which is why it says that they obeyed the old nature, the desires of the old nature, and what? Their own thoughts.